Do you have a big box of cards like this and no idea what to do with them? If so, this video is for you. I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process to sort these in different rounds to know what to keep, what to get rid of, and more importantly, where to get rid of them too. Welcome to Baby Steps to Cardboard Freedom. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Market Movers video. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot, and today, this is a video that many of you have been asking for. This is a video to help you to cardboard freedom. You've heard of Dave Ramsey's steps to financial freedom. Well, this is going to help you break free from boxes and boxes and boxes of cards stored all over your house, on your table, in your closets, and maybe even in weirder places. This one's going to make your spouse or significant other very happy because you're going to break free. You're going to get rid of some of this stuff and you're going to keep what matters most to you. So what are we doing here today? Well, I've got this box, and this box of a bunch of stuff. I took this box actually from Cards HQ. This is one of the value bin boxes, and I'm gonna sort it. I'm gonna show you this step-by-step process, how I sort things. So I've done the video in the past, kind of at a high level. I gave you a resource on how to go through some of this. Now we're actually gonna get hands-on and do this. And so this is what we're gonna do today. We're gonna start out, and we're gonna sort this box by sport. We're gonna organize it into different sports. Then we're going to figure out, by looking at this, which cards I might wanna keep and which cards I might want to get rid of. Then we're gonna go through that keep pile and talk about the different approaches you can use to sort from there, whether it's by how you want to store the cards or by your PCs, different things like that. Then we're gonna go through and sort the sell pile or the get rid of. And we're gonna talk about the different options where you can sell things, how you might wanna think about that process. Then we're gonna talk about giveaways or donations and some different ideas for that. And then finally, I hate to say it, we're probably gonna have a few cards that need to go into this at the end. I know, many of you cringe at that thought. It seems like sacrilege within the hobby, but the reality is sometimes cards just need to go there or some other creative place. So that's the process today. I'm gonna sort of talk you through this. We're gonna do a little time lapsing of the sorting process to keep you engaged. And by the end, I'm gonna be taking a really nicely sorted box back to Cards HQ, maybe even buying a few of these cards if I really do want them for my PC. But the purpose here is to show you what this exercise looks like. I've even got some really useful tools and different supplies that are gonna help you with your sorting process in general. So let's get right into this process. All right, so I've got my outline here, and I'm gonna make this outline available to all of you so that you can have your own cheat sheet. You can go through this step by step. And I'm gonna start out going through this by sport. So I've got my box here. I bet 90% of you watching this video have at least one box like this at home, or maybe piles of cards that could go into a box like this. So I'm gonna start out, and I'm just gonna sort these actually by sport. So obviously there's gonna be basketball, football. I don't even really know what's in this box. I just tried to make sure that there was a good variety. And I'm kind of gonna do it in front of me, and then I'll migrate things into the boxes as I go. But this is a process, so I'm gonna go through this kind of quietly. Maybe we throw some music on, we'll time lapse this, and by the time you get done, we'll see that these piles are sorted. All right, so a few observations here. First of all, obviously you need the extra boxes so that you can put things to the side. So now my original box is empty, and I gotta tell you, this box could not have been less sorted. The cards were upside down, backwards. Every other card was basketball, football, baseball. You may have seen me changing my approach, stretching my back. I definitely recommend having a table and a comfortable chair when you're doing this. I wanted to show you can do this anywhere. You can do this. I do have pretty good padding under this carpet, but now I've got these all sorted by sport, and that's very useful. And I also got just kind of like a preview, right? Going through, I was trying to go as fast as I could and just focus on the sports, but I kind of got a preview of what was in there too. So the next step that I want is I'm just gonna actually sort these from what I want for PC versus what I don't. And keep in mind when you're doing things for PC, if you're gonna kind of go through like another round later on to really go through that list again and say, okay, now I've got all these cards that I thought I wanted. How many of these do I actually want? So that's gonna be the process next. I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna sort these out. And for me, this is the spot where you're talking PC. There's no right or wrong way to do this. This is quite literally as simple as, is this something I wanna keep in my collection or not? And be very honest with yourself. But you could have player PCs, you can have team PCs, you can have set PCs. I collect Stadium Club cards. There's a whole bunch of ways you can go about this, but that's gonna be my next process here. I'm gonna sort through all of these from what I want to keep and what I don't. Then we'll look at the want to keep, kind of what my thought process was with some of those cards, and then we'll shift into probably the most important step, which is sorting kind of what you don't want to keep and where you want to send it from there. All right, so one thing I was going to mention here, this small box is probably going to end up being my like PC box. So I'm going to actually move. I have baseball, basketball, football, overflow of football, and then this was like everything else. This was soccer, hockey, some non-sports cards, very little other stuff. So I'm going to move the baseball back over here, and then as I go through baseball, I'll put in here, you know, what I want to keep for my PC, and then I'll kind of do the same thing over here, just move it over into this box, and then we'll eventually kind of keep consolidating. It's just making best with the different rows you have depending on how many boxes you have. All right, so I want to show you what I pulled out of here. Now, obviously, this wasn't a box that I had at home, but I wound up with a pretty short stack. So I grabbed a smaller box that I'm going to put these in for now to the side. But basically, I just pulled out some PC stuff. I pulled out, you know, a TJ Hawkinson, lots of Lions, Chiefs, Lions, Barry Sanders cards, more Chiefs, Lions, an old Ruby Wave, Sekou Doumbouya. I have like a great photos binder that I put stuff into, so this one qualifies. A couple Andre Drummonds. Those of you who know my latest nickname, digital nickname, Raptor, had to pull that one out. I got a Grant Hill, awesome image here of the Admiral blocking Ronnie Seekley. Got a couple of other Pistons, Thompson, Isaiah Stewart. I love gold medallions from Ultra. Also love Randy Johnson. My guy Placido Polanco, one of my favorite Tigers from that era. Awesome Topps Now card of Miggy. Scooble rookie card found in there. Got this Beam Team Miggy, couple more. Kerry Carpenter, just a base chrome, but I might keep that, you know, like my kids like to have their little sports binders too. Awesome photo here of Mark McGwire from Emotion in the 90s. And then a couple more, great photo here, just would go right into the great photo binder. A Byron Buxton for the Stadium Club PC. And finally a Christian Santana Shimmer, I believe is what this parallel is from Bowman, a Bowman first. So I pulled that stuff out. I'm gonna set it to the side and I'm gonna put it in here. And you know, one thing that's really important, depending on your approach, you could consolidate multiple steps into one. So going through these over and over and over again can be a bit repetitive. You could start out by doing keep versus sort and then switch into sorting by sport if you wanted to do that. The steps are somewhat interchangeable at the highest level. I just find that it's easier for me to go through and kind of know that I have my basketball, the baseball, football, and other, and then keep curating through that list. Now we're gonna get into what do we do when we're onto the step here where you're gonna start deciding what you wanna get rid of. And so this is kind of like, I would think about this in terms of things that you know you would wanna give as a gift. So if you have friends who collect specific players or collect specific teams, things like that, then maybe set those aside to a pile. And then you're thinking about, okay, where am I gonna potentially sell cards if it's into a sell pile? And obviously we know eBay is a great place to sell cards. If you have the, if it's worth it to take the time to create an individual listing for some of these cards, then certainly do that. ComC is another site that I obviously talked about recently. And if these cards are like parallels, like I said before, in that kind of $1.50 to $2 and up range, then those are great candidates to send to ComC, and then obviously your local card shop too. Now, when it comes to bulk stuff like this, I will say, like I said before, the more sorted you have it, the easier it's gonna be to sort of say, hey, I wanna get rid of all this stuff, are you guys buying? A lot of times shops are looking to buy big lots. They wanna buy graded cards and nicer cards and stuff that's in that $20, $25, $30 and up range. And so they might be more willing to buy like a big value box off of you too, to kind of throw it in and sweeten the deal, as opposed to if you just walk in with 5 unsorted boxes that make it somewhat impossible for them to even know what's inside the box. And there is a lot of mixed stuff in here. So that is what happens a lot at Cards HQ. They'll just buy these big unsorted boxes as part of a bigger purchase. And then it's kind of up to the consumer to go through the value box and figure out what they've got here. So that's gonna be my next step. And one thing that I'm gonna be looking at specifically as I go through this is base paper cards, like base chrome, base Topps paper, base hoops, you know, Donruss, things like that. It's all going to the side. It's all going to the side because there's honestly not too much you can do with that. Now, if you know you have a friend who's an Orioles collector or something and they like base cards, cool. If you know you have a friend who's trying to complete all of Topps Series 1 and you have some of those, you set them to the side. But that's going to be a really important part of this curation process, is sort of setting these things to the side. If I see stuff in here, because this came from a value box, if I happen to see something that I think is worth selling on eBay, I'll stick it over there. But my mindset here is mostly going to be separate, kind of the base paper and curate all that stuff out. And then there should be some parallels and other things in the mix that I can set to the side and continue the sorting process from there. All right, so the process has continued, and I did find some cards that would just make great gifts, and I love to set these aside. You saw it in my previous. So I have a friend who is a Porzingis and a Dallas Mavericks fan, so that one would go to him. We've got a guy on our team who's big into Purdue. Guy on my team is from Creighton. Jeff's a big Florida guy, and then I've obviously got friends who are both University of Michigan and Pistons fans for these cards that I didn't necessarily want. So these would go into my gifts section, and I might put little dividers in between them or just sort of keep them organized that way. And then what I did here is, this is all the like base paper stuff that just isn't at the end of the day worth anything. It's just not worth anything, and it's all fallen over. But I'm just going to kind of show you, even this Dennis Rodman, winner stays, this stuff just, it's like no name rookies. Yes, you saw Zion Williamson. Here's a LeBron. Maybe you put that into like a LeBron team pack. You could, but really at the end of the day, a lot of people don't really want this base paper stuff. You can choose to keep it. And the next step that I'm going to talk about, even this, like, I don't even know who this guy is. Maybe you know, a Nebraska fan. So I kind of just chucked that stuff to the side. And then what I did with the rest was I sorted into like rookie cards that might be worth setting to the side and alphabetizing. And so that's kind of what this pile was like a bunch of rookies and other players that I thought, maybe I want to keep them over time and be able to go find their cards. If Jaime Jaquez Jr. comes back and starts to pop off because the Heat are rebuilding, I have a row of these. And so what's really useful for that piece is these sorting trays. You can get these sorting trays, different companies sell them. I believe BCW has these, and then I just put the alphabet on here. Now you can see it only goes to O. My other tray is in use. I cleared this one off to kind of show you, but this makes it really easy. When you set it down, you're like A, B, C, D, put them all in here, and then you just put them into your box after that. And what happens is it comes out like this. So I'm going to show you different, everything from the most economical to whatever. I just cut out cardboard and put A on it. And now I can find my Sharif Abdur-Rahims, and I can find my Giannis Antetokounmpos. These are PC cards, but I do the same thing with rookie prospecting when I have those boxes, when I think that those players have a chance to have their values go up over time. And then with the rest of these, what I find works best, I didn't really find anything sorting through the basketball cards that was worth necessarily sending to ComC to be like $2 and up. And in the same vein, not necessarily individually worth listing on eBay. But what you can do is, I've got all these cards. These are basically parallels, like big name players, just anything shiny or color. That's how I sorted this all out, okay? And so what I would do from here is I actually have these dividers. And I bought these on, I believe I bought these on Etsy or eBay. And you can see, these actually have the team label on them. So when you put them into the box, they stick up above the box, above the cards when you have them in there, so that you can see them. What you don't want to do is make the same mistake that I did and buy the ones that are shorter. You can see this one isn't tall enough, and so it actually gets lost in the box. I'm not even sure why they make these ones. So I ended up having to like put painter's tape on the top of these and shove them into top loaders to try to get them to stick up in the boxes. Don't buy the short ones. You can buy these, custom labels that people had. You can make your own. You can write on them. You don't even need to label them if you don't want to. You can just, have them in the box. But putting these into a sort tray, you could use one of those sorting trays to get them all organized and then sort by team. That allows you to do one of two things. Let's say you just want to have some really cool gifts. Somebody who collects all these different teams, or maybe you at least know an Indiana Pacers fan or somebody like that. You sort them all by team within the sport, and then you can either list lots, so you could put them on eBay as Indiana Pacers lot. You can create thoughtful gifts. Maybe your kids are in elementary or middle school and you want to do like team bag giveaways, do a fundraiser. This is where there's a use for a lot of this stuff. I don't personally like to give away junk. That's why I sort the base paper out. If you want to include those and sort of build that out as like a packet that somebody, like a little kid might like them. Sometimes my kids like base cards. That's totally fine too. But again, you're trying to like curate all of this stuff. So that's how I like to do it. I like to get them sorted. You know, I've got the box now of the stuff that I wanted to keep in that little box over there. I've got my gifts separated out. I looked for cards of value that I know I could turn and use toward ComC credit to buy other things for my PC or list on eBay. And then finally I get to this spot where I've got like the rookie prospect group, and then I've got all the other stuff that's like parallels, variations, inserts, cool things that I can create team bags with. And that's the process that I would go through with these baseball cards, with these football cards, with these other cards, until I eventually have everything sorted. And then that brings us to the last step. So the last step is the one that, you know, really nobody likes. You've got these cards. Maybe you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to take that LeBron out. I'm going to take some of that other stuff. But ultimately, I'm going to take this stack of stuff. By that point, I'm probably going to have a box like this, especially if you like to rip your own wax and rip boxes. You're going to have a bunch of base stuff that you don't necessarily want anything to do with. And simply let it go. Into the trash bin it goes. Don't think twice about it. You got to kind of move on. It's sort of the nature of things. Obviously, the manufacturers create the base cards for a reason. They're not just going to load a box only with hits. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and I know some people get frustrated. They like to build the team sets, but the reality is many people don't. And rather than clogging up your closet with space and all these base cards that you're never going to look at and never do anything with, sometimes you got to bite the bullet and then let them go. The last thing that I like to do as part of this process, when I'm all done, is come all the way back around and pull back out the cards that I thought I wanted to keep. Now, when I look at this pile, I could come back through here and I could go, you know what? I don't really want to have TJ Hawkinson cards. I don't like the fact that the Lions gave him away for peanuts and traded him to a divisional rival to the Vikings, so I'm getting rid of that. This Herman Moore card's cool, but I'm gonna give this one to my kids for their Lions binder. I don't even know who this guy is for the Chiefs. I'm gonna get rid of that. Same thing here. Spielman, yeah, but it's just a base paper. It's a cool photo, but let me get rid of that. Always keeping the berries. Those will go into the kids' binders. Dante Hall, that's pretty cool. DeAndre Swift got traded, and he's played for multiple teams. Not going to keep that. This guy was a major bust. Don't want that one. That's still cool for my, photo binder. Oh, 2 Drummonds, yeah, but you know what? I only collect Drummonds on the Pistons, so I'm going to get rid of those ones. Definitely keeping the Raptor. Grant Hill, I'll keep him. And you kind of go through that process. You do like a second wave of curation, because a lot of times what happens is it is hard to let cards go. Maybe even that other shiny stuff that you hit in a pack or you did other things. Try to keep narrowing down and be very honest with yourself about what you do and don't want. It's going to pay dividends in the long run. Otherwise, you're going to find that you're constantly getting these piles and piles and piles of cards. And my sort of ideology about all of this is if I'm not pulling them out with some frequency, some regularity, once every few months, once a year at least, to look at them, to enjoy them, to share them with others, then what am I doing holding on to them? Somebody else might enjoy having them more or benefit from having them. Somebody who's maybe more enthusiastic about some other sub PC or even just base cards in general or other things. So that's kind of the process overall. Use these tools. The sorting tray comes in clutch. Get yourself several multi-row boxes just so you've got everything out in front of you. Get your own dividers or buy some of these pre-labeled ones. They're a little expensive for what they are, but it is kind of tedious if you think about it, like going through and putting all these labels on. And ultimately, that's the process. Figure out what you want to keep, what you want to sell, what you want to give away, where you want to sell it, and ultimately what you want to throw away. I hope that this video has been helpful. I was sitting here, I'm on the floor with my back bent over, doing this for the people. I'm going to link down below this sorting strategy so that you have a record of that and you can go through your own little checklist. And if you do follow this process, or if you have your own, I'd love to hear about it down below in the comments. And as always, this video is brought to you by Market Movers, where you can track your collection. So go to marketmoversapp.com and use code DIVE. You'll save 20% and get 2 weeks for free to completely try it out. Other than that, until next time, happy investing, keep on collecting, and make sure to have fun.